Let's start by telling you that the federal government says ongoing diplomatic engagements between Nigeria and the United States are yielding positive outcomes and helping to ease tensions in bilateral relations. Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris disclosed this on Tuesday, confirming that new channels of communication have improved mutual understanding between both nations. He explained that early misunderstandings stemmed from an incomplete grasp of Nigeria's complex internal challenges. Idris also alleged links between a proscribed separatist group in Nigeria and a US-based lobbyist spreading misleading narratives about the country. Now, President Bola Tinubu, state governors, ministers and top dignitaries will gather in Abuja on Wednesday for the 21st All Nigeria Editors Conference. The two-day event, organized by the Nigerian Guild of Editors, will take place at the State House Conference Center, Aso Villa, where the Nigerian president will officially declare proceedings open. Over 500 editors, media executives, diplomats and academics are expected. The Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Saad Abubakar, and Nduka Obaibena will chair key sessions, while Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma delivers the keynote. Several governors, former officials and media leaders would also attend the prestigious conference. To more security matters, President Bola Tinubu has received the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Y.D. Shaibu, at the State House in Abuja as part of ongoing efforts to strengthen national security. The Army Chief briefed the President on his recent visit to the northeast and other regions of the country, assuring that the military remains committed to improving safety nationwide. According to General Shaibu, Nigerians should expect improved security across the country following renewed strategic operations and field assessments by the Nigerian Army.
I came to brief him on the outcome of my visit to the Northeast region and look at the other security situation across the country, which was satisfactory.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs has brought security to the front burner with renewed focus on how state governments can take a bigger role in combating insecurity across the country. News Central's Igbalani Omoni reports.
At a time when Nigeria continues to battle widespread insecurity, the NIIA Distinguished Lecture Series in Lagos centered on the theme, The Role of State Governments in Overcoming Insecurity in Nigeria. The keynote lecture was delivered by Governor of Kaduna State, Senator Uba Sani, whose state, once among the most volatile, has seen improvement through community-based intelligence and grassroots collaboration.
The broader lesson is unmistakable. Nigeria's insecurity is deeply rooted in governance deficits and socio-economic exclusion, where citizens feel abandoned, voiceless, or marginalized, grievances fester, and violence erupts. State governments must therefore expand their roles beyond law enforcement to champion social justice, inclusion, and economic opportunity.
Cooperative federalism means that states and the federal government must work together in harmony. They are not rivals or contesting or competing levels of government. They are complementary, especially on matters of security.
Stakeholders at the event emphasized that effective policing must be localized.
We should not be where we are now if we could agree on certain issues that will be designated national consensus. In a lot of areas, you mentioned the issue in your presentation of state police.
Today in Nigeria, the entire police personnel we have, they are less than 400,000. The entire military personnel we have in Nigeria are less than 250,000. In a country of over 230 million, we have a lot of ungoverned spaces in Nigeria. When we are setting all these vigilance groups and motokun here in the southwest, that cannot be the solution. It will be a stopgap because they don't have the constitutional power.
Speakers concluded that security cannot be left solely to federal forces, stressing that subnational governments hold the key to trust, intelligence sharing, and rapid response. In Lagos, 4 News Central, Igbalani Omani.
Now, as the impact of insecurity and forced migration continues to shape the lives of thousands across Nigeria, efforts to empower survivors and returnees are gaining ground. We now cross live to our reporter Igbalani Omani, who is at the graduation event of a skills empowerment program in Lagos, where displaced persons and returnees are taking a bold step towards rebuilding their lives. Omani, thank you for bringing us the updates from there. What has been the highlights of the event so far?
Of this project. So ICSS is the Inspire, Create, Start and Scale, which has built these beneficiaries with the required entrepreneurship and
Yes, the call has dropped.
All right, we'll come back to Omani. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right, what has been the highlights of the event so far?
Okay, gathered here are IDPs, survivors of insurgency, survivors of domestic abuse, and of course returning migrants or returned migrants, if I can put it that way. Over 130 of them are actually seated here now, and they're going to be benefited from a 3-month vocational skill, which aims to reintegrate them back into the society, noting how much they go through or they have gone through in the period where after which they came back from whichever state they came back from or whatever it is they've gone through in the past months they've been here. I'm actually here with someone very important that I would like her to share what exactly the event is all about, because I know the aim will be to reintegrate these people back into the society and of course remove the issues like stigmatizations and a whole lot of things they deal with. So let's start with your name, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. My name is Fumi Olukeye. I work with ActionAid Nigeria. I'm the Director of People and Culture at
All right, Omani, they're bringing us an update on the reintegration program. We'll definitely get back to them when we can establish proper connection. But in the meantime, the National Assembly now, the Senate has directed the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to refund 210 trillion naira to the Federation account after rejecting its explanations over the unaccounted funds. The decision followed the failure of NNPCL's Group Chief Executive Officer, Bayo Ojulari, to appear before the Senate Committee on Public Accounts for clarification. Committee Chairman Senator Aliyu Wadada said the company's responses to 19 audit queries were contradictory and failed to justify 103 trillion naira in accrued expenses and 107 trillion naira in receivables. He questioned how the firm could claim to have spent 103 trillion naira on joint venture cash calls in 2023, despite generating only 24 trillion naira between 2017 and 2022. A bill seeking to establish an artificial intelligence, innovation and communication technology solutions center in Nigeria has passed the second reading on the floor of the Senate. This is as lawmakers also passed a bill for the second reading that seeks to channel taxes collected from non-alcoholic, carbonated and sweetened beverages into funding for health projects across Nigeria. News Central's National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim brings us the details of this.
As plenary activities resume for the week, the Senate considered several items in its order paper, including the bill seeking to establish an Artificial Intelligence, Innovation and Communications Technology Solutions Center. Sponsor of the bill, Yemi Adaramodu, while leading the debate on its principles, described the bill as a major leap into the world of artificial intelligence and digital innovation.
Nations that fail to invest strategically in these technologies risk being left behind in the 21st century knowledge economy. Those for whom artificial intelligence will mean a lot to, they are not here. The only way we can take them into civilization and make them part of the global village is to provide the capacity for them in artificial intelligence.
After the voice vote and passage, the bill was referred to the Committee on ICT and Cybersecurity for further legislative action. Another bill seeking to amend the Customs Excise Tariffs Consolidation Act to allow for tax collected on non-alcoholic carbonated and sweetened drinks be set aside to fund health projects and Infrastructure for Nigerians passed second reading during Tuesday's plenary.
It proposes a restructuring of existing excise duty on sugar-sweetened beverages, not to impose more burden on citizens, but to redirect part of the existing revenue to finance health-related programs and infrastructure that will improve the well-being of Nigerians. But it is unfortunate that over the years, health has not attracted our attention as a parliament, nor does it also attract the attention of the executive to propose this kind of amendment.
Up to now, we could not meet the 15% requirement by all African countries to make it part of their budget for the healthcare delivery system. We could not meet it. Maybe through that medium, we can be able to meet that target.
After deliberations and contributions by senators, the bill was put to a voice vote and passed for the second time. The presiding officer subsequently referred the bill to the committees on Finance, Commerce and Health for further legislative work with a 4-week timeline to report back to plenary. In Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Let's go to politics now, with political activities gradually building up ahead of the 2027 general elections. The performance of Nigeria's major parties in the recently concluded Anambra governorship election has continued to attract scrutiny. This report by our correspondent, Idong Joseph, looks at the improvements and lapses recorded in the poll and whether the outcome is a pointer to what may unfold nationally.
Barely 14 months to Nigeria's next general elections, the outcome of the recently concluded Anambra governorship election has raised new questions about the preparedness of the Independent Electoral Commission and major political parties. While some progress has notably been recorded, key challenges remain.
What was evidently in decline was the performance of the other political parties.
Political party has failed to do their primary assignment, which is to canvass for votes. That is one. Number two is also to mobilize people to come out and vote for them.
The last election, we had, I think, 26% or so turnout in the 2023 election. We may have worse scenario. Do you know what people go through to collect PVC?
Although the ruling All Progressives Grant Alliance may have consolidated its hold on the states, analysts say the bigger story lies in deepening voter apathy. They are calling for improved security, demilitarization of election environments, and enhanced integrity of both the electoral umpire and the judiciary, all critical to rebuilding public trust and encouraging voter turnout in 2027.
But before we talk about what we should be expecting, let's look back. After 2023 general election, all the off-cycle election, all of them came down. People, the apathy went to another level.
I think the political parties in general are very comfortable with low turnouts because it's easier to manipulate when the turnout is low than it is when the turnout is very high.
There are also growing concerns about the rising trend of vote trading in Nigeria's democracy.
As we move into 2027 election, if this vote trading thing persists, one of the things that is going to have is that we are going to have the person that is not the best of the best having the highest number of votes.
For many observers, the Anambra election has become a barometer for assessing weak grassroots structures and the extent to which dwindling public trust could shape future contests.
Nigeria is suffering from state exit. We don't know it. State exit is that condition of a country or a state where your citizens have withdrawn.
As INEC keep moving, they have done well in Anambra now. We are moving to FCT, we are moving to Ekiti, we are moving to Osun. If they can sustain the tempo and then conduct credible election in that, I can tell you we will have the highest voter turnout in 2027.
As political parties return to the drawing board, analysts say their efforts in voter mobilization, Education and maintaining electoral integrity will ultimately determine the legitimacy of future polls. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Nationwide, food inflation is finally easing as the annual food inflation rate for September has dropped to 16.87%, down from 21.87% in August. However, the story is not entirely one of joy in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital, as traders say that while the prices of staple vegetables and grains have fallen appreciably, the relief has not been felt as sales are slow and cash unavoidable. Our correspondent, Mono Balagbogo, has the details in this report.
At the two major markets in Lokoja, households are picking up some welcome news as the prices of vegetables, pepper, tomatoes, onions and grains, rice and beans are showing considerable decline as harvests hit full swing. But behind the relief lies a less celebrated story for market traders. Food sellers say supply has improved and thus prices have eased, but many customers are still cautious as low income and limited cash flow are constraining buying power.
Before we share down this tomato, we share down 2,000, now 500. This pepper before we sell at 2,000, now 200 naira per person.
About 6 to 7 months ago, we saw this one at the price of 15,000. But now the price has been beaten down.
Price when they buy Ishaka for 140, they buy it now for 7,000, 17,000.
Which don't come down. This one before, that front one, before they sell at 6,000, 5,000. But now they sell at 3,000.
Many shoppers say that they are cautiously optimistic. Though many admit that the drop in prices is real and helpful, they however say that their families are living on constrained budgets and the struggle to feed the household remains.
So like you can see, I just priced oil now from 2,000 before. Now she's saying 1,800. So I don't know, maybe if I should price down again, she will bring down the money. So all those manji, omo, all those provision, it never come down. It's still even high. Now as this one come down like this, so go come and get and say come buy them. The wahala, money no day, money no flow.
A chat with the leadership of this market says that the drop is driven almost entirely by the harvest season and improved supply.
At the season, because everybody is farming now.
While bumper harvest has brought tangible relief in the form of lower prices, whether it translates into real improvement for households will depend on incomes, transport, and supply chain stability. In Kogi for News Central, Mono Balagbogo.
Away from that, Nigeria's federal government says that it is moving closer to unlocking what it calls a government tech revolution, a new phase of governance driven by technology, transparency, and innovation. Vice President Kashim Shettima made the remarks at the 2025 Digital Nigeria Conference, which held in Abuja. Our correspondent Joshua Imurai has the details in this report.
It is the 2025 Digital Nigeria Conference holding in the nation's capital, Abuja. The gathering had senior government officials, heads of government parastatals, security officials, and tech giants under one roof to deliberate on Nigeria's technology and digital future. Vice President Kashim Shettima in his remarks says that Nigeria is moving closer to what it describes as a GovTech revolution with a new e-governance bill.
We are in the advanced stage of passing the National Digital Economy and e-governance bill into law. I want you to understand the magnitude of this step. Just as the cashless policy unlocked the fintech revolution, this new bill will unlock the GovTech revolution, an era of smarter governance, greater transparency, and inclusive service delivery.
For the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, senior officials say that expanding network access remains central to this transformation.
Because there are 20 million Nigerians who live in communities without access to any form of telecommunications. Most of these people are in the rural areas. And these are parts of the country where the bandits find easy to hide because it's difficult for the armed forces to be able to track them. Today, that project is now been approved by the National Assembly through the borrowing plan. And in the next 2 to 3 years, all these communities will be provided access to world-class telecommunication services.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency warns that failing to harness youth potential could cost the nation dearly.
But if we fail to do that, if we fail to skill our youth, if we fail to provide a platform for them to create value, we are squandering the most valuable and precious asset we have as a nation.
With advent of the digital economy and e-governance bill on the horizon, stakeholders in Nigeria say that the nation needs to rethink its strategies to maximize opportunities in the global digital market. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
And to health matters, as part of efforts towards tackling cancer, stakeholders say awareness creation is not enough to manage or reduce the burden of the disease, but creating a financial support system that can help patients access healthcare. At a fund disbursement ceremony for cancer patients by the Medicaid Cancer Foundation in partnership with the Ministry of Health, donor agencies, partners and stakeholders say this move is a direct follow-up to its Walk Away Cancer Awareness campaign for 2025. News Central's Aishat Saliu has the details.
As Nigeria continues to account for a high burden of cancer globally, it is believed that patients are mostly left to bear the financial costs that often accompany the management procedure. This they do often without sufficient support.
Because one of our biggest issues in this space is having money for treatment. Most of us stop treatments halfway, come back, stop, and some don't even start at all because they can't even afford it.
I for one, I have spent over 17 million naira for just the first round of treatment that I've had. And I'm about to start another one again, which is still going to cost all of these funds.
But stakeholders here say in order to record an adequate amount of progress in reducing the disease burden, there need to be a collaborative effort towards accessing funding for care. Organizations like the Medicaid Cancer Foundation say that they are diverting proceeds from their Walk Away Cancer Awareness campaign to support victims of cancer, a decision exemplifying a move from talk to walk.
These are patients that have applied to our Patient Access to Care program. We run different programs that support cancer patient care on wheels. PACE is the one that helps them with funding, with diagnosis, with psychosocial support. And so we are disbursing amounts to the tune of 100 million to these cancer patients. Some of the money will go to the hospital for radiotherapy, for surgery, for chemotherapy, and so on. But it's a drop in the ocean.
There are, however, calls on government and all other relevant stakeholders to key into the process and scale up funding for many patients in need.
A lot has been doing currently to expand the activities of that Cancer Health Fund. If you are aware that in the year 2025, we've gotten 200 million being appropriated for the funds. And you know that is quite challenging, you know, when you are having a population, cancer patients, the incidence of cancer patients of there about 140 something in the country.
We have been directed by the National Assembly to cover all cancer cases in Nigeria. We know that it's very, very cost intensive, and we're looking at opportunity of having funds to be able to cover all vulnerable people who will come down with cancer.
A call on citizens to ensure regularly testing as a means to guarantee early detection, a key to successful cancer treatment. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
The First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, has donated the sum of 250 million naira in support of a gender center for excellence at the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, in Plateau State. Tinubu made the donation during her visit to commission the center, a legacy project of the Senior Executive Course 45-2023 of the Institute. News Central's Chizoba Anyuwe tells us more.
This is about the second time the president's wife is visiting Plateau State this year. This time, she's here to commission a project by the Senior Executive Course 45-2023, which she says will have a lasting impact in the country's policy landscape. She's also seeking to harness the potentials of all citizens as one of the key priorities of the president's renewed hope agenda.
The establishment of this gender center represents a bold step towards bringing gender issues to the forefront of every facet of our society towards achieving equity. I am particularly pleased that the center's approach includes both men and women, recognizing that inclusion must be a shared national agenda. Actual progress will come when both genders stand as allies working together to dismantle stereotypes, open opportunities, and strengthen our collective humanity.
The governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, and the Director General of NIFS both extolled the initiative, saying it is worthy of commendation.
Gender issues is no longer just a subject for discussion. It must become a national priority. I share that passion, I share that commitment, and that is why I supported wholeheartedly the advocacy for special seats for women in the national and state legislative house. As evidence of our continued support, I would ask that a vehicle be donated to the center.
Through your public service, you have consistently championed the inclusion of women in leadership and policy decision-making. Your compassion, vision, and commitment to mission building have inspired a new generation of Nigerian women to dream bigger and to serve with integrity and excellence. The Senator Oluremi Tinubu's Gender Center of Excellence stands as a permanent symbol for this legacy.
With this center, it is expected that women inclusivity and gender-based policies will be promoted as part of strategies to birth a desired change in Nigeria's approach to gender issues. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyuri.
You're still live with us on the news. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, we've got more stories. Do stay with us. And to business, the Governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, has presented the 2026 proposed budget estimate of 914,863,422,871 naira only. Mutfwang stated that the major objectives as set out targets for the year 2026 include the promotion of economic diversification and the reformation of public institutions for greater efficiency, among others. Still in business, the Nigerian Exchange suffered its worst single-day loss in 15 years as investors reacted sharply to a proposed tax reform that could triple capital gains tax. The all-share index plunged 5.01% to close at 141,327.30 points, erasing 4.64 trillion naira from market capitalization. Now at 89.88 trillion naira, heavy sell-offs hit major stocks including Dangote Cement, MTN Nigeria, and Boa Cement, all down by 10%. Analysts say uncertainty over the tax policy has rattled investor confidence, leading to the 7th consecutive session of declines. Only 4 stocks gained, led by NCR Nigeria and Berger Paints, while 61 recorded losses. Trading volume surged 80%, with FBN, Holdco, and Girigu leading activity. Tunisia and the World Bank have signed a $430 million financing agreement to support the Tunisia Energy Reliability, Efficiency and Governance Improvement Project. The 5-year initiative aims to modernize Tunisia's energy sector, enhance electricity reliability, and promote sustainability. The program includes $30 million in concessional financing and focused on accelerating renewable energy deployment, improving the performance of the national utility STEG, and strengthening sector governance. TEREG is expecting to attract $2.8 billion in private investment at 2.8 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity by 2028, create over 30,000 jobs, reduce electricity costs by 23%, and cut energy subsidies by 2.045 billion dinars. World Bank country manager Alexandre Arobio stated that this project strengthens Tunisia's clean energy future. Now, European markets are expected to open broadly higher on Wednesday, extending positive momentum from earlier this week as investors anticipate an end to the U.S. A government shutdown. The Senate passed a spending bill Monday, now awaiting the House of Representatives' approval, raising hopes of a governance reopening by week's end. Germany's DAX is projected up 0.4%, France's CAC 40 up 0.25%, Italy's FTSE MIB up 0.22%, while the UK's FTSE is likely unchanged. Key earnings released include Bayer, Infineon, RWE, and Swiss Life. In Asia, SoftBank shares dropped 10% after selling its entire NVIDIA stake for $5.83 billion. U.S. futures remained flat following tech sell-offs, with investors weighing AI leaders against broader market risks. And now Singapore is aiming to strengthen cooperation between ASEAN and European Union on the digital economy, the Deputy Prime Minister Gan Kim Yong said at the Singapore FinTech, the festival on Wednesday. Gan, also Trade and Industry Minister, suggested that a digital economic agreement between the two blocs could be a major breakthrough, emphasizing that ASEAN and the EU can collaborate without full integration. Discussions will start with basic rules for digital trade before exploring further steps. Southeast Asia's digital economy is valued at over $300 billion in 2025. Ghana also highlighted opportunities for ASEAN to work with the Gulf Cooperation Council, CPTPP, and reform the WTO to support a multilateral, rules-based trading system. We're still talking business. The U.S. stock futures rose on Wednesday as investors monitored Capitol Hill for a decisive House vote on ending the longest government shutdown in history. Dow Jones futures gained 0.1%, S&P 500 futures edged up 0.2%, and NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.4%, reflecting a shift from big tech into safer sectors. The Senate passed a spending bill on Monday, sending it to the House, expected to vote on Wednesday afternoon. Recent market moves include a record close for the Dow, modest gains for the S&P 500, and profit-taking in AI-driven tech stocks. Meanwhile, a weak ADP report highlighted a cooling labor market, while Fed officials' upcoming comments keep investors focused on potential interest rates changes. Now to foreign stories. Angola has marked 50 years of independence with a grand celebration in the capital, Luanda. More than 10,000 people gathered for the historic event, joined by 12 visiting presidents, including leaders from Portugal, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and India. The Golden Jubilee featured military parades, cultural performances, and tributes to freedom fighters who helped end centuries of colonial rule. President João Lourenço highlighted the nation's progress since independence in 1975, saying Angola has overcome 500 years of slavery and humiliation to embrace unity and growth.
Deixamos para trás 500 anos de colonização, escravatura e humilhação. Passados que foram estes 3 grandes obstáculos ao nosso desenvolvimento econômico e bem-estar social dos angolanos, uma vez que a guerra ficou para trás, o apelo que faço aos angolanos e angolanos é o de trabalharmos juntos da Palestina.
Não, eu me senti mal. Eu me senti mal porque eu queria estar dentro, acompanhar de perto, uma vez que eu queria acompanhar a marcha militar.
The United Nations peacekeeping mission in South Sudan may face major setbacks following strict conditions imposed by the government on a planned troop reduction. A senior UN official issued the warning on Tuesday as the UN implements a 25% cut in uniformed personnel due to U.S. budget reduction. The mission, known as UNMISS, has been vital since South Sudan's 2011 independence, helping stabilize the nation after its 2013-2018 civil war that killed about 400,000 people. Recent clashes between forces loyal to President Salva Kiir and detained Vice President Riek Machar have renewed tensions. Officials fear the new restrictions could jeopardize UNMISS' ability to operate effectively.
Genuine political negotiations and compromise. In this regard, we call for the resumption of the government-led joint task force with UN, AU, IGAD and Troika to support the prioritization and resourcing of the constitutional making and electoral processes. While the current liquidity crisis will greatly impact the ability of the mission to protect civilians and deliver on the rest of its mandate, UNMISS continues to be a critical actor in South Sudan to protect civilians and support all efforts aimed at maintaining peace and stability in the country, again, to the extent possible, and in a region that is massively affected by it.
In the meantime, the United Nations humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, has met with Sudan's Army Chief, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, in Port Sudan to secure unhindered delivery of life-saving aid across the nation. The discussions focused on ensuring humanitarian access to all regions affected by ongoing conflict and displacement. Fletcher described the talks as constructive, emphasizing the UN's commitment to operate neutrally, independently and impartially to support millions in urgent needs. The meeting comes as aid agencies struggle to reach communities cut off by violence between Sudan's military and rival forces, worsening what the UN calls one of the world's gravest humanitarian crises.
Humanitarian crisis in Sudan remains at alarming levels. And as I expressed in the UN Security Council last week, the international community has been shocked and horrified by the atrocities carried out in Al-Fasher. All of us want to see peace return to the Sudanese people, and the humanitarian community stands ready to scale up and deliver life-saving support at the levels necessary to reach tens of millions of Sudanese people with food, with medicine, and with medical support. I very much welcome the constructive conversations I had with President Burhan this afternoon, aimed at ensuring that we can continue to operate everywhere across Sudan to deliver in a neutral, independent, and impartial way for all those.
And now Turkey on Wednesday said all 20 people on board a military cargo plane that crashed in Georgia on its return from Azerbaijan have died. According to the Defense Ministry, the plane took off from Ganja Airport in western Azerbaijan on Tuesday afternoon, but crashed shortly after crossing the border into eastern Georgia. It said there were 20 people on board, including the flight crew. Meanwhile, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said Turkey is working with the Georgian authorities to reach the wreckage.
Enkaza ulaşma çalışmaları ile ilgili ülke makamları ile koordineli biçimde çalışmalarımız devam ediyor. İnşallah bu kazadan en az bir badire ile çıkarız. Rabbim şehitlerimize rahmet eylesin ve dualarımızla inşallah.
In Washington, the U.S. House of Representatives is expected to vote on Wednesday on a bill aimed at ending the 6-week government shutdown. The proposed funding measure faces strong opposition from Democrats who argue it fails to extend key health insurance subsidies set to expire later this year. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries warned that health care for millions of Americans is becoming increasingly unaffordable, urging Congress to act before costs spiral further out of reach. The deadlock highlights deep partisan divisions over federal spending priorities and access to affordable care as lawmakers race to restore full government operations.
And of course, because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the midst of a cost of living crisis that already exists, that they failed to address, health care for people all across this country is on the brink of becoming unaffordable. Working class Americans, everyday Americans, middle class Americans, unable to afford to go see a doctor. This is in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Once again, House Republicans, welcome back from your taxpayer-funded 7-week vacation. You now have an opportunity to actually take some action in an area of this healthcare crisis by working with Democrats before the Rules Committee this evening to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credit.
Across Africa, a quiet storm is turning into a movement. From the streets of Nairobi to the avenues of Yaoundé, young people are rising with smartphones, with placards, and with purpose. They're angry about corruption, tired of recycled leaderships, and impatient for change. This is Gen Z Africa, the digital generation that knows its worth, that demands accountability, and is not afraid to trend hashtags that shakes Parliament. Now, in Kenya, they protested tax hikes. In Cameroon, they called out repression. In Morocco and South Africa, they're mobilizing for justice, equality, and for jobs. Behind the viral videos and the chants that lies a deeper message. Africa's youth are not just future leaders. They are the present actors. They're shaping policies, they're changing power, and they're redefining democracy on their own terms. The question, though, is whether governments will listen or repeat history with crackdowns and censorship. Ignoring this generation is no longer an option. They are educated, they're connected, they're determined to build a continent that works for them and not just the few at the top. So Africa's youthquake is not just a headline, it's a reckoning. And like every tremor, it's a warning to those who think that the ground is beneath them and is still very much stable. Just watch out. That's your postscript.